In our lesson today, we're going to have more practice using the percent equation. And remember, the percent equation says that the part equals a percentage of the whole value, percent times whole. So we're going to be writing that equation a lot here in this lesson. And in example 1, we're told that in a science class, students compared their vertical reach and their height to see if they are proportional. Maria is 60 inches tall and can reach 75 inches high. What percent of her total vertical reach is her height? And so in order to answer this question, we're going to start by writing that percent equation. Part equals percent times whole. Okay, and what we need to remember a lot today is that we always find a percent of the whole. Now, if we read the question, all right, the question is in the last sentence. It says, what percent of her total reach is her height? This sentence here sets up the problem for us. First of all, it says, what percent? We're looking for the percentage here. So in our equation, under the percent spot, we're going to put R for the rate. And now we have to figure out the part value and the whole value that we can plug in to this equation. Remember that we always find a percent of the whole. Okay, so in this case, the percent of her total vertical reach. Her total vertical reach is going to be the whole value. Well, her vertical reach, she can reach 75 inches high. This right here is going to be the whole amount. Again, we find a percent of the whole. Her total vertical reach is the whole value. And Maria is 60 inches tall. That represents the part. Remember, that word is usually attached to the part. So let's plug these values in. The part is 60. R, the rate, the percent is what we're looking for. And the whole value was the 75-inch vertical reach. 60 equals R times 75. Notice that R is on the right-hand side of the equal sign, and it's not alone. It's multiplying the 75. So to get R all by itself, we're going to have to divide by 75 on the right. And if we do it on the right-hand side, we also have to do it on the left-hand side. Remember, with algebra, whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. On the right-hand side, 75 divided by 75 is 1, so that leaves us with the value of R. And if you type in 60 divided by 75 into your calculator, that's going to give you 8/10. 8/10 equals R. But remember, it said what percent of her total vertical reach is her height? Well, we now have to take this number and convert it into a percentage. Remember that to convert a decimal into a percent, you have to take that decimal point and move it to the right twice. Once, twice, we have an empty spot, we fill in with a 0. That's going to be equal to 80%. So we can say now that Maria's height is 80% of her vertical reach. Maria's height is 80% of her vertical reach. In our triad example, we're told that an elephant weighs 15,000 pounds on Earth and 2,500 pounds on the moon. Assuming that the weights are proportional, what percent of its weight on Earth is its weight on the moon? And so once again, we're going to start by writing the percent equation. Part equals percent times the whole. We always find a percentage of the whole value. And again, we've got to read the sentence that has the question because this is going to set the problem up for us. Once again, it says what percent? We're looking for the percentage. So in our equation, we're going to replace the percentage with R for rate. Now, again, we find a percent of the whole, all right? Percent of its weight on Earth. The weight on Earth is the whole value. Okay, so if we find its weight on Earth, it was 15,000 pounds on Earth. So this is going to be the whole value, all right? What percent of its weight on Earth? is its weight on the moon? Again, the word is usually attached to the part. So the weight on the moon is going to be the part, which we see right here, 2,500 pounds on the moon. Let's put that in for the part. 2,500 equals R times 15,000 is our equation. And just like in the last example, R, the variable, is on the right, but it's not alone. It's multiplying 15,000. To get R all by itself, we're going to have to divide by 15,000 on the right. And again, with algebra, we have to do the same thing to both sides. So we'll divide the left by 15,000 as well. On the right-hand side, 15,000 divided by 15,000 is 1, so that leaves us with the value of R. And if you punch in 2,500 divided by 15,000 into your calculator, notice that you're going to get a repeating decimal. You're going to get 0.16, and then a whole bunch of sixes after that. So that 6 is going to be repeating. 1600ths with the 6 repeating equals R. But again, the question said, what percent? So we have to take this number now and change it into a percentage. 1600ths with the 6 repeating equals, well, remember, we have to move the decimal point once, twice to the right. So it's going to go right there. But remember, after this 6, because it repeats, you have a whole bunch more 6s. So this 6 right here is going to repeat. So it's going to be 16 6/10 repeated percent. And so we can say that the elephant's weight on the moon, okay, because that's what we were looking for. What percent of its weight on Earth is the weight on the moon? The elephant's weight on the moon is 16 6/10 repeated percent of its weight on Earth. Okay, so it's all about reading the question, reading the words very carefully so that you can set up this percent equation correctly. In example number 2, we're told that many states have a meal tax that is proportional to the total spent on food and beverage. In one state, the meal tax is 8 4400%. How much tax will a customer pay if the food and beverage total is $54? So once again, to help us answer this question, we'll start by writing part equals percent times whole, the percent equation. And in this case, they've given us the percentage right here. The meal tax is 8 4400%. We have to first convert that into a decimal so that we can use it here in our equation. So 8 4400% equals, remember, you take that decimal point and you move it back once, twice to the left. So that's going to give you 0.844 or 844 10,000ths as your decimal. And that's the number that we're going to plug in here for the rate, 844 10,000ths. Now, the other value that was given, okay, it says, how much tax will a customer pay if the food and beverage total is $54? That was the whole bill, all right? The people, when they ordered their food and beverage, their entire bill came to $54. So that's going to go right here in our equation, which means that the part, which is the tax that we're looking for, is going to be P. We're looking for the amount of tax, which is part of the total bill. So notice that P is all by itself here on the left-hand side of the equation. To get its value, all you have to do is multiply 844 10,000ths by 54. So go ahead and punch that into your calculator. When you do that, you should get a decimal of 4 5,576 10,000ths. P equals 4.5576. Now remember, we were calculating how much tax the customer is going to pay. Our answer has to look like money. This number right here doesn't look like money because it has too many decimal places. Remember that money only has 2 decimal places. So we have to take this number, 4 and 5576, and we have to round it to the nearest hundredth. Right now, it looks like 55 hundredths. We check the thousandths place, though, and we see a 7. This 7 is enough to take 55 hundredths and round it up to 56 hundredths. And so when we change this into money, that's what's going to happen. So we can say that the customer will pay $4.56 in tax. Okay, so again, we set up our percent equation. And remember, when you're dealing with money, you always have to round your answer to the nearest hundredth. The customer will pay $4.56 in tax. In example 3, we're told that Jane is a realtor and she earns 5.5% commission on the selling price of each home that she sells. She earned $9,020 in commission on the sale of a home. So they want to know, what was the selling price of the home? Okay, so commission, people that sell things for a living, when they sell something for a certain amount of money, they get to keep a part of that as their fee, which is called a commission. So in order to figure out the selling price of the house that she sold, we're going to use our percent equation. Part equals percent times whole. And they've given us the percentage right here. 5.5% is her commission. We have to take that and change it into a decimal first. 5.5% equals, move the decimal back once, twice. So that's going to give you 55 thousandths when you do that as a decimal. We're going to record that in the rate spot, in the percent spot. And now the other part that they told us was that she earned $9,020 in commission. Well, as I mentioned before, commission is part of the sale that you get to keep. All right, so the $9,020 is going to be the part. And we are looking for the selling price of the home. What was the whole amount that the house sold for? So W, the whole, is what we're looking for in this example. Notice that the variable is on the right-hand side of the equal sign, but it's not alone. It's being multiplied by 55 thousandths. So to get R all by itself, we have to divide, W by itself, we have to divide by 55 thousandths. And once again, if we do it to the right-hand side, we have to do it to the left-hand side, divide by 55 thousandths. On the right, 55 thousandths divided by 55 thousandths is 1, leaving us with W. And if you punch into your calculator, 9,020 divided by 55 thousandths, you're going to get an answer of 164,000. So this means that the selling price of the house was $164,000. Okay, so Jane sold the house for $164,000. The commission that she gets to keep was $9,020, which was 5.5% of the $164,000 selling price. In our try it example, we're told that in order to make a profit, a clothing store sells jeans at 115% of the amount that they paid for them. How much did the store pay for the jeans? So in order to figure this out, once again, part equals percent times the whole value. Okay, so our percentage this time we can see right here is 115%. 115% written as a decimal, move it back once, twice. So that's going to be 1 and 15 hundredths, which is what we're going to record right there. Okay, remember that we always find a percent of the whole, 150% of the amount they paid. All right, well, in this case, we can see how much the store is selling the jeans for, but we don't know how much they actually paid for the jeans. So this amount that they paid, the whole value, is what we're looking for. The selling price, $28, therefore, is going to be the part. Okay, so this number 28 equals 1 and 1500ths times W, which was the price that the store paid. We need to figure out the value of W. W's on the right-hand side. It's not alone on the right. It's got this 1 and 1500ths multiplying it. So we're going to have to divide by 1 and 1500ths on the right, which means we have to do that on the left as well. On the right, 1 and 1500ths divided by itself is 1, leaving us with W. On the left, if you type into your calculator, 28 divided by 1 and 1500ths, you're going to get a pretty long decimal. We're going to write everything down. 24 and 3, 4, 7, 8, 2, 6, 0, 9 is the value that we get for W. But remember, up here, W is the amount that the store paid. So this number is going to have to turn into money. So we're going to take 24 and 3, 4, 7, 8, 2, 6, 0, 9 and round it to the nearest hundredth. Right now, it looks like 34 hundredths, but the 7 right there in the thousandths place is enough to round us up to 35 hundredths. So this is going to be about 24 and 35 hundredths. So we can say the store paid $24.35 for the jeans. And that number makes sense because if they're selling them for $28, well, that number has to be higher than the amount that they paid so that they can make a profit. Okay, so again, if we take this $24.35 and we multiply it by 115% because this number is bigger than 100%, our end result, the selling price, has to be higher, and it was. In example 4, they tell us that Harold's computer hard drive has 131 and 2500ths gigabytes of free space, which is about 17.5% of the capacity of his hard drive. What is the capacity of his hard drive in gigabytes? So once again, let's start by writing the percent equation. Part equals percent times whole. And the percent is the easy one to pick out right there, 17.5%. Let's convert that into a decimal first. Move the decimal back once, twice to the left. That's going to be 175 thousandths. So we're going to record that right there in our equation, 175 thousandths. Okay, and remember, we always find a percent of the whole. All right, so the whole value in this case represents the capacity of his hard drive. All right, well, looking through here, I don't think we know the capacity of his hard drive because it says, what is the capacity of the hard drive? So the whole value, W, is what we're going to be looking for. Okay, the amount, this 17.5%, is this 131 and 25 hundredths. That is the part, okay, that he has free. So we're going to put 131 and 25 hundredths. Only part of his hard drive was free. We have to figure out how much the whole hard drive is going to be. Notice W is on the right side of the equal sign. It's not alone. It's being multiplied by 175 thousandths. So we'll start by dividing by 175 thousandths so that we can isolate W. We also have to do that then to the left-hand side. On the right, 175 thousandths divided by itself is 1, leaving us with W. And on the left, 131 and 25 hundredths divided by 175 thousandths, that's going to give us an answer of 750. Okay, so the question said, what is the capacity of the hard drive in gigabytes? We can say that the capacity of the hard drive is 750 gigabytes. Okay, so again, read the question carefully. We always find a percent of the whole value, substitute your values in, and then use your algebra skills in order to figure out the value of the variable that is missing.